my question, despite that super long lead up, is just your general feelings and the challenges of when you are blending cool and warm light within the same scene. There has to be some accommodations you need to make just for skin tone alone. I mean, how do you balance those out?
Yeah, I think finding the right level of cool is sort of key. And I think I didn't want it to feel like overly manipulated or like heavy-handed in any way. I really wanted it to feel just naturalistically what was occurring. I mean, when you're in ambient light, it's naturally cooler, and I wanted to sort of just be embracing that as opposed to manipulating the image. I think we really found that balance actually in color correction. We built different LUTs for the two characters to sort of have a little bit of a contrast, and the LUT that we made for Ava initially kind of embraced those cooler tones, and on its own, it's really gorgeous and feels naturalistic. But I found once I got into the color correct with my colorist Shane Reed, that when you contrasted it with Deborah's, it felt jarring, and I didn't want it to feel. I didn't want that. It needed to be more subtle than that and a little more nuanced. It wants to be distinctly cooler, but not something that feels manipulated. So I think it was just sort of weaving through that in the color correct and just making minor adjustments to make sure we achieved the balance that helps and was appropriate.
So that's interesting. The LUT that you created for on set was, you guys are working with it. It felt fine, but when you brought it into color, it didn't feel right.
Yeah, and I think that that happens a lot. The LUT itself felt great. It was more that it ended up being too severe. Like on its own, when you aren't looking at it next to anything, it felt like it was perfect and told the story. It was only when you started cutting back and forth between Las Vegas and LA and going from this warmer vintage to this sort of modern, cooler thing that we just had to sort of work to figure out the balance. And it was really just like there wasn't a science to it. It was a taste thing as we were navigating the color correction.
I think the best example of that blending between cool and warm is the shot that you sent us in your initial email to us when we asked you for some scene examples you wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Is that bathroom scene where you have kind of Ava in the foreground and her bedroom in the background, the windows there. Like, that is pretty much as contrasty as you can get. Not contrast by way that you're thinking, color contrasting.
Color contrast,
between the cool light in the foreground and the warm light in the background. I mean, I'm sure we'll put an image of that up while you guys are watching on YouTube, but talk to me about that frame, that scene in particular, and how you achieved it.
Yeah, I think I love that frame, and we had scouted that location, very early on, and that Lucia was looking hard for a location that worked, where we could shoot through a bathroom. The story at that point is that this is the morning after Ava, at a very low point, has slept with her postmate. So she's sitting on the toilet talking to her manager. She's reached rock bottom and is willing to accept the job to go to Deborah Vance in Las Vegas. And then we sort of rack focus back from Ava on the toilet to the postmate, sort of remembering that he's still there and he's in the bed. And we knew that we'd found that frame really early on, and had shot that on Artemis with maybe our location manager or something sitting on the toilet, and knew that was going to be what the hero frame that the scene was structured around. And then it was just sort of one of those lucky things of the schedule. Like by the time we got to that house, we had already shot the Melrose location and sort of knew that we were going for this mixed color palette theme for the early Ava introductory scenes. And so we just were, it was easy at that point. We knew what we were going to do. And we did soft ambient light through kind of a frosted glass window that pre-existed in the bathroom to key Ava from the outside in. And then use some mirrors and some HMIs to push some warmer daylight into the background to sort of have the postmate on the bed in a warm sunlit glow. And it's great. You really feel that color contrast in a very naturalistic way. It's what would naturally occur in that bathroom. We're just sort of embracing that and then amplifying it.
One thing about Hacks is that these characters, they certainly contrast, yes, But there's also so much similarity between Ava and Deborah. Like they are almost the yin to each other's yang. And you do have to create contrast between them, but there also has to be something similar about them. Even at the end, I think, of the second episode, when she's at that, I don't know, antique shop or whatever it was, picking up the salt shaker, she has a conversation with the guy there. And he had said, like, you're just like her. Like, he even references the fact that that Ava's very much like Deborah. So there are moments where you need to understand that they're different people coming from different places, but you have to also understand the similarities between the two. And I think one of those scenes is when they first meet and they are in Deborah's home and they're having that face-off where they're sitting in the big, grand, living room, sitting room. They meet for the first time, and it's basically like almost a roast of each other. Like they're having like a comedic battle against each other and insulting each other back and forth, but they go toe-to-toe. And I think that's when you realize that these characters really are one and the same.